Simulan mong abutin ang iyong pangarap na magbibigay dangal sa iyong bukas. Ang suliranin, hindi laging nandyan, dapat mong harapin. Kami iyong kasama sa bawat takin, magkaakbay nating lulutasin. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ang boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ikaw lagi ang bida. Ang mga aral ay ginintuang atin ng bawat guro na siyang gagabay sa iyong pagkamulat. Naway umukit ito sa iyong isipan, maging mapanuri, sundin ng wasto at nararapat. Kagandahang asal ang ipakita, ipadama ang pusong may malasakit. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ang boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ikaw lagi ang bida. Sakali mang tayo'y subukin ng unos, ating haharapin ng walang takot. Sasamahan ka ni Fernan at Dino, ang bagong barkada mo. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, edukasyon mo'y sigurado na. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, edukasyon mo'y sigurado na.
Fernandino Teens TV.
Hello there, Fernandino Teens. Welcome to another interesting episode of Fernandino Teens TV Season 2. I am Sir Danny Manuel, and I'll be your teacher lecturer for today's episode. While the Philippines' COVID-19 cases have already decreased in number, it is important that we keep in mind that the virus is still everywhere. Hence, it is vital to always be reminded of the things that we can do to get rid of the virus. Wear face mask, especially in public places. Regularly use alcohol or sanitizer in disinfecting your hand. Practice regular hand washing using soap and water. Observe social distancing. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. Avoid touching your mouth, nose, and eyes. And if you are experiencing any symptom of COVID-19, stay away from people. Fernandino Teens, do you know that one of the mentioned ways to get rid of COVID-19 has something to do with our topic in today's episode? Do you have any wild guess? You guessed it right. Hand washing with soap and water. Do you know that every time you wash your hands with soap, there are complex chemical reactions taking place? The soap itself was formed from saponification, a type of chemical reaction. Saponification is just one of the many chemical reactions that take place every day, and those are what we are going to learn in today's episode. Today's topic is all about chemical reaction. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the different types of chemical reactions and write chemical equations and chemical reactions. Are you ready to start, Fernandino teens? Great! Let us start today's episode with a pre-evaluation. I have prepared 5 statements about our topic for today. To participate, you may type or write true if you believe that the statement is correct and false if the statement is incorrect. You may type in your answers on the comment section or write them on a clean sheet of paper. As we move on with our discussion, you would find out if you answered correctly. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. First statement. A chemical reaction is a process in which one or more substances, the products, are converted to one or more different substances, the reactants. True or false? Number 2. There are 3 basic parts to a chemical equation: reactants, products, and the yields arrow. True or false? A plus B yields AB is the general formula for synthesis reaction. True or false? Number 4. The bonds formed in the product compounds are the same type of bonds as seen in the reactant molecules. True or false? Number 5. The general form of a combustion reaction can be represented by the reaction between a hydrocarbon and oxygen, which yields carbon dioxide and water. True or false? Again, you will know if you answered correctly as the lesson progresses. We shall now start our discussion about chemical reaction. Let us begin with defining chemical reaction. A chemical reaction is a process in which one or more substances, the reactants, are converted to one or more different substances, the products. This statement is contradicting with the first statement given on our pre-evaluation. Thus, the statement is incorrect. The answer for statement number 1 is false. Were you able to get the correct answer, Fernandino teens? Good job! Again, a chemical reaction is a process in which one or more substances, the reactants, are converted to one or more different substances, the products. Notice that I have highlighted the words products and reactants. We will get back to those terms in a short while. Substances are either chemical elements or compounds. People often imagine that chemical reactions only occur in a test tube in a science laboratory, but chemical reactions happen everywhere around us. Chemical reactions are an integral part of technology, of culture, and indeed of life itself. Chemical reactions abound in the geology of Earth, in the atmosphere and oceans, and in a vast array of complicated processes that occur in all living systems. There are 6 different types of chemical reactions, namely synthesis or combination reaction, decomposition reaction, single displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, combustion reaction, and acid-base reaction. But what sets the difference among these types of chemical reactions? Before we dig deeper with the different types of chemical reaction, let us first talk about reactants and products that makes a chemical equation. By the way, a chemical equation is a chemist's shorthand for a chemical reaction. A chemical equation represents a chemical reaction using symbols and numbers. There are 3 basic parts to a chemical equation: reactants, products, and the yields arrow. This is the second statement on our pre-evaluation, and you got it right again. Fernandino teens, the statement is correct. The answer is true. Well done! Reactants are compounds or elements that are needed in a reaction and that undergo chemical change during a chemical reaction. In reactions, yield means to produce or form and is usually represented by an arrow. When reactants undergo a chemical change, they yield products. Products are the end results or compounds produced in a chemical reaction. Other symbols that we will be using when we write a chemical equation are the plus sign, which is read as reacts with if it is used on the reactant side, and is read as and if it is used on the product side. The S sign means that the compound is solid. The L sign means that the substance is a liquid. The AQ sign stands for aqueous solution and means that the compound is dissolved in water. Finally, the G sign means that the compound is in gas form. Equilibrium arrow shows a reversible process. This indicates that the heat is supplied to the reaction. There are two types of numbers in a chemical equation: subscripts and coefficients. Subscripts represent how many atoms of each element are present in a molecule. Coefficients represent how many molecules of a specific chemical compound are present in the reaction. Only coefficients of molecules can be changed in balancing equations. Molecules in which the subscripts of atoms of the same elements are different, for example, H2O versus H2O2, have different chemical compositions, meaning they are not the same compound. For this reason, when balancing chemical equations, subscripts of molecules cannot be changed. You will know more about that in the next science episode. The same molecules having coefficients, for example, 2H2O and 5H2O, are the same compounds, only present in different amounts. In a molecule 3NO2, the coefficient is 3. There are 3 molecules of NO2, and the subscript of oxygen is 2. There are 2 oxygen atoms in 1 molecule of NO2. In total, there are 6 oxygen atoms, 3 molecules of NO2, and 2 oxygen atoms per 1 molecule of NO2. When Fernandino Teens TV returns, I will give few examples on how to write a chemical equation, and we will start with our discussion about the different types of chemical reaction. Stay tuned!
Ang Schools Division Office City of San Fernando, Pampanga ay kaisa ng Department of Education sa pagsasagawa ng mga proyekto at programa na tumutugon sa mga pangangailangan ng mga mag-aaral. Inilunsad ang Division Call Center for Tutors and Guidance Counselors upang magbigay ng educational at psychological assistance sa mga mag-aaral, magulang at stakeholders ng Division. Kaya, kung may nais kayong itanong tungkol sa pag-aaral, maaaring magpadala ng mensahe sa Division Call Center for Tutors and Guidance Counselors Facebook page o tumawag sa mga numero na makikita sa ibaba ng inyong screen tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes sa ganap na alas 8 ng umaga hanggang alas 6 ng gabi. Maaari rin kayong sumangguni sa ating guidance counselors na nagbibigay ng guidance and counseling services. Lahat ng inyong ibabahagi ay mananatiling confidential. Ang nasabing programa ay nagsisilbing daan upang malaman ang feedbacks ng stakeholders para matulungan ang ating divisyon na mapagbuti pa ang mga sumusunod na programa. Ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Tumawag na sa aming mga numero o bumisita na sa aming Facebook page at magpadala ng inyong mga katanungan.
Fernandino Teens TV.
Welcome back to Fernandino Teens TV Season 2. How do we usually write a chemical equation for a certain chemical reaction? All chemical reactions, including photosynthesis, involves reactants and products. Before we proceed, Fernandino Teens, remember that to write a chemical equation, the knowledge of the symbols that will be used is not enough. Remember that all chemical equation consist not only of the symbols, but also of elements and compounds, so it pays off to have a copy of this on hand when you write a chemical equation for convenience. In photosynthesis, the reactants are 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water. To show that there is a reaction between these molecules, we will be writing the plus sign between them. These molecules are then converted by light energy captured by chlorophyll. We can show that by using the yields symbol into a sugar molecule and 6 molecules of oxygen, the products. In photosynthesis, the chemical equation is written as 6CO2 plus 6H2O yields C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Can you write the chemical equation for this reaction? When hydrogen gas reacts with oxygen gas, water is formed. Amazing job, Fernandino teens! H2 reacts with O2 yields H2O. Take note that this is not the final chemical equation for the formation of water. It is worthy to know that all chemical reactions follow the law of conservation of mass. In the next science episode, you will know more about that. As mentioned earlier, chemical reaction has 6 types, namely synthesis or combination reaction, decomposition reaction, single displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, combustion reaction, and acid-base reaction. Let us now discuss each type in detail. The first type of chemical reaction is synthesis reaction. A synthesis reaction or combination reaction is a type of chemical reaction in which 2 or more simple substances combine to form a more complex product. The reactants may be elements or compounds, while the product is always a compound. Basically, to identify this reaction, look for a product that contains all the reactant atoms. The general form of a synthesis reaction is A plus B yields AB. This now proves that the third statement given in the pre-evaluation is correct. The answer is true. In the simplest synthesis reactions, 2 elements combine to form a binary compound, a compound made of 2 elements. The combination of iron and sulfur to form iron 2 sulfide is an example of a synthesis reaction. Its chemical equation is Fe plus S yields FeS. Another example of a synthesis reaction is the formation of potassium chloride from potassium and chlorine gas. Its equation is 2K reacts with Cl2 yields 2KCl. Synthesis or combination reactions aren't always just simple elements reacting to form compounds. Another everyday synthesis reaction, for example, is the reaction that forms hydrogen sulfate, a component of acid rain. Here, the sulfur trioxide compound reacts with water to form a single product. The chemical equation for this reaction is SO3 reacts with H2O yields H2SO4. Other examples of synthesis reaction are the following. 2 molecules of water are produced when 2 molecules of hydrogen gas react with 1 molecule of oxygen gas. Production of 2 molecules of carbon dioxide when 2 molecules of carbon monoxide react with 1 molecule of oxygen gas. And the production of 2 molecules of ammonia when 3 molecules of hydrogen gas react with 1 molecule of nitrogen gas. Let us watch a short video that shows another example of synthesis reaction. The second type of chemical reaction is decomposition reaction. A chemical decomposition reaction or analysis reaction is one of the most common types of chemical reactions. In a decomposition reaction, a compound is broken into smaller chemical species. A decomposition is the opposite or reverse process of a synthesis reaction. The general form of decomposition reaction is AB yields A plus B. Because chemical bonds are broken, a decomposition reaction requires the addition of energy to begin. Usually, the energy is supplied as heat, but sometimes simply a mechanical bump, electric shock, radiation, or change in humidity or acidity initiates the process. The reactions may be classified on this basis as thermal decomposition reactions, electrolytic decomposition reactions, and catalytic reactions. The electrolysis of water into oxygen gas and hydrogen gas are an example of decomposition reaction. The decomposition of carbonic acid into water and carbon dioxide in soft drinks, which can be represented by the chemical equation H2CO3 yields H2O plus CO2. Here is another video that shows the decomposition of copper carbonate.
When you heat a metal carbonate, the metal carbonate decomposes to give carbon dioxide and the metal oxide. We will heat a sample of copper 2 carbonate. As we heat the copper carbonate decomposes to give a characteristic black copper oxide. The carbon dioxide that is released is bubbled through lime water. The lime water is a solution of calcium hydroxide. The carbonic acid and the calcium hydroxide react to produce calcium carbonate, which is insoluble. The lime water turns cloudy because the carbon dioxide, as it bubbles through the water, produces carbonic acid.
The next type of chemical reaction is single displacement reaction. A single displacement reaction is a chemical reaction where one reactant is exchanged for one ion of a second reactant. The starting materials are always pure elements such as a pure zinc metal or hydrogen gas plus an aqueous compound. When displacement reaction occurs, a new aqueous compound and a different pure element will be generated as products. It is also known as single replacement reaction. Single displacement reaction takes the form A plus BC yields B plus AC. The reaction between zinc metal and hydrochloric acid to produce zinc chloride and hydrogen gas is an example of a single displacement reaction. Single displacement reaction occurs only if the pure metal is more active than the metal in the compound. Another example is the displacement of iron from an iron 2 oxide solution using coke as a carbon source. Let us pause to watch the reaction between silver nitrate and copper.
In the single displacement reaction of a metal replacing a metal ion from its compound, a more reactive metal will displace a less reactive metal from its compound. We have a solution of silver nitrate, and we're going to add some copper wire to the solution. The copper is a more reactive metal than the silver, and the copper metal will replace the silver ion from its solution. As the reaction occurs, silver metal will form on the copper wire. After about 30 minutes, we see that we've formed a very large amount of solid silver crystal. The solution has turned blue due to the formation of the copper plus 2 ions.
When we get back, we will be talking about the remaining types of chemical reactions. Don't go away, Fernandino Teens TV Season 2 will be right back.
Maya po oras kaya kayo, Fernandinos. Ako pala ay Elwin Arl Serrano ng City Tourism Office ng Siyudad San Fernando. Ngayong bulan na ini, pagmasusyan tayo ang National Heritage Month na ating temang Victory and Humanity, Upholding Filipino Heritage and Identity. Kambena nini, metong karang aktibidades na ng siyudad, apin ng launching ng bayong Heritage Passport. Yung Heritage Passport, apin ng metong karing proyekto ng kaya katamong siyudad, yung pamanamuna ng Mayor Edwin D. Santiago. Anong nuka rin makalagelangan ding eganagan ng heritage sites, heritage structures, na akit tamo kin kaya katamong heritage district. Makakayado din kini, ding importansya da ding mapila na tradisyon, kaya ni syudad, kalupa na ning pamangawang parol, ang po yung pamangalesa. May aho siyang heritage passport, uling atin kang dapat gawan, anong nukaran puntalan mo la ding at yung passport, at saka ka mag-selfie. Kay ba't kanta, palto making tourism office, at mamiyalang sticker ka rin ega-nagalang apuntulan mong lugar. At timong may ngari ang tutong passport. Balo mingeni, panahon na ini, etamo makain bisa lumal, uli na ng COVID-19 pandemic. Kaya naman kimbanwa ngayon ni, agkatan ko la ding bikers tamo, edad 18 hanggang 50, imbis na lumaot kayo po, di na nyo lang dita ka oras di kaya katamong heritage structures, kaya ni syudad. Anya naman karing mumunang 50 bikers ang makayari kaya katamong heritage passport, may di na lang premium only San Fernando loot bag. Inggawan nyo mo bakit ta makapag-register, munta kayo mismo opisina na ng City Tourism, ng munisipyo, at saka kayo magdalang metong valid ID. Kabinan kaya kayong heritage passport, ating makasipit ang instruction nung nano pa ing dapat gawan. Anya naman ka rin hanggang kapadyakin, nanano ko pa, tara na!
Fernandino Teens TV.
You are still watching Fernandino Teens TV Season 2. Before the break, we have already talked about the first three types of chemical reaction: synthesis reaction, decomposition reaction, and single displacement reaction. Let us now talk about the fourth type, double displacement reaction. A double displacement reaction is a type of reaction in which two reactants exchange ions to form two new compounds. Double displacement reactions typically results in the formation of a product that is a precipitate. Double displacement reactions take the form AB plus CD yields AD plus CB. The chemical bonds between the reactants may be either covalent or ionic. A double displacement reaction is also called a double replacement reaction, salt metathesis reaction, or double decomposition. The reaction occurs most often between ionic compounds, although technically, the bonds formed between the chemical species may be either ionic or covalent in nature. Acids or bases also participate in double displacement reactions. The bonds formed in the product compounds are the same type of bonds as seen in the reactant molecules. Therefore, statement number 4 in the pre-evaluation is correct. The answer is true. Usually, the solvent for this type of reaction is water. The reaction between silver nitrate and sodium chloride is double displacement reaction. The silver trades its nitrate ion for the sodium's chloride anion, causing the sodium to pick up the nitrate ion, forming silver chloride and sodium nitrate. Here's another example. When barium chloride and sodium sulfate react, it leads to the formation of sodium chloride and barium sulfate. As a result of the above given reaction, a white color precipitate is formed due to the formation of barium sulfate. Another example of double displacement reaction is the reaction between iron 3 bromide and sodium hydroxide. The products are sodium bromide and iron 3 hydroxide precipitate. Take a look at this video that shows the double displacement reaction between silver nitrate and sodium chloride.
In the double displacement reaction of silver nitrate and sodium chloride, we have a solution of silver nitrate, which is colorless. We will add a solution of sodium chloride, which is also colorless. When the sodium chloride solution is added to the silver nitrate solution, a white precipitate, insoluble silver chloride, is formed.
Combustion is the fifth type of chemical reaction. A combustion reaction is a type of chemical reaction in which a compound and an oxidant are reacted to produce heat and a new product. The general form of a combustion reaction can be represented by the reaction between a hydrocarbon and oxygen, which yields carbon dioxide and water. This is complete combustion. Therefore, the fifth and last statement in your pre-evaluation is correct. True is the answer. In addition to heat, it's also common, although not necessary, for a combustion reaction to release light and produce a flame. For a combustion reaction to begin, the activation energy for the reaction must be overcome. Often, combustion reactions begin with a burning match or another flame, which provides the heat needed to initiate the reaction. Once combustion starts, enough heat might be produced to sustain the reaction until it runs out of either fuel or oxygen. Examples of combustion reactions include combustion or burning of methane gas. In this chemical reaction, the reactants are methane and oxygen, and the products are carbon dioxide and water. Other examples include lighting a match or a burning campfire. In cases when combustion is incomplete, carbon monoxide is produced. Due to lack of oxygen, the fuel will not react completely. This in turn produces carbon monoxide and soot instead of carbon dioxide. The equation for incomplete combustion is hydrocarbon plus oxygen gas yields carbon monoxide plus carbon plus water. The carbon is released as soot. Carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas, which is one reason why complete combustion is preferred than incomplete combustion. See how combustion reaction occurs in this short video.
Combustion. Let us learn about combustion. The process of burning of a substance with the release of heat and light in the presence of oxygen is called combustion. Fuel plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Step 1. Place 2 candles on the table. Light both the candles. Step 2. Place an inverted glass over one candle. Step 3. The flame of the candle flickers, produces smoke and gets extinguished. Step 4. The candle burns only as long as the oxygen is present in the inverted glass. Step 5. The uncovered candle continues to burn.
The last type of chemical reaction is the acid-base reaction. An acid-base reaction is one in which a hydrogen ion is transferred from one chemical species to another. Such reactions are of central importance to numerous natural and technological processes ranging from chemical transformations that take place within cells in the lakes and oceans, to the industrial-scale production of fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, and other substances essential to society. The reaction between an acid and a base is called an acid-base reaction or a neutralization reaction. Although acids and bases have their own unique chemistries, the acids and base cancel each other's chemistry to produce a rather innocuous substance, water. In fact, the general acid-base reaction is acid plus base yields water plus salt, where the term salt is used to define any ionic compound that is formed from a reaction between an acid and a base. In chemistry, the word salt refers to more than just table salt. In most acid-base reactions, there will always be water and salts. Whenever you combine an acid, for example vinegar, lemon juice, sulfuric acid, or muriatic acid with a base like baking soda, soap, ammonia, or acetone, you are performing an acid-base reaction. These reactions neutralize the acid and base to yield salt and water. For example, hydrochloric acid reacts with sodium hydroxide to form sodium chloride, salt, and water. Sodium chloride isn't the only salt that can be formed. For example, here is the chemical equation for an acid-base reaction that produces potassium chloride, a common table salt substitute. For our last video, let us observe how metal carbonate react with acids to produce salt and carbon dioxide.
Let us try an experiment to see how an acid reacts with metal carbonates. A metal carbonate is a metal combined with carbon and oxygen, like copper carbonate, calcium carbonate. You can take hydrochloric acid, calcium carbonate, beaker, and a matchbox. Take some calcium carbonate in the beaker. Add hydrochloric acid to it. A gas is formed and released. Light the match and bring it close to the mouth of the beaker, and it extinguishes. This gas is carbon dioxide. This comes from the reaction of calcium carbonate with hydrochloric acid, which forms calcium chloride, carbon dioxide, and water. A metal carbonate reacts with acid, carbon dioxide gas is released, and a salt is formed. You can try similar experiments with other carbonates and acids.
Those are the 6 types of chemical reactions. When we return, we will check how much you learned from today's episode. That and more when Fernandino Teens TV returns.
Hindi lamang sa larangan ng pangkabuhayan apektado ang maraming pamilyang Pilipino, kundi maging sa larangan ng pagkatuto ng bawat batang Pilipino. Inilunsad ng siyudad ng San Fernando ang programang Nurturing Environment and System for Thriving or NEST, isang education community pantry na naglalayon para sa isang malawakang pagtulong, paglantabay at paggabay na ang focus ay ang makapagbigay ng tulong at suporta sa ating mga mag-aaral sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay ng educational needs gaya na lamang ng school supplies, tutorial sessions, study tips, at iba pang mga pamamaraan na mas lalong makatutulong sa pag-angat ng ating edukasyon. Dahil hindi hadlang ang pandemya sa magandang kinabukasang naghihintay sa ating mga mag-aaral. Sino-sino nga ba ang mga kalahok sa programang ito? Sa pagtutulungan ng ating school administrators, guro, magulang, at iba pang mga miyembro ng ating komunidad gaya ng barangay officials at sangguniang kabataan ay siguradong magiging mas matagumpay ang programang ito. Paano nga ba ang magiging proseso ng naturang programa? Una, magkakaroon tayo ng isang Facebook group, ang Pampanga High School NEST Education Community Pantry na pangungunahan ng Educational Pantry Coordinator. Ang mga magulang, tagapangalaga at mga guro ay ia-add ng ating educational pantry members sa Facebook group na ito. Sa page na ito, maaaring i-post ng mga magulang at tagapangalaga o sino mang miyembro ng educational pantry ang kanilang mga kahilingan o requests. Kailangan ding ilagay ang pangalan ng mag-aaral, grade, at section para sa mas agarang aksyon. Oo nga pala, hindi lang requests ang pwedeng i-post. Pwede ring mag-post ang mga nais magbigay ng tulong o mga gustong mag-donate. Sabi nga nila, sharing is caring. Tandaan na ang Facebook group na ito ay pribado at posts na may kaugnayan lamang sa page na ito ang maaaprobahan. Mayroon din palang Google Form na ipamamahagi kung saan maaari nating isumite ang ating requests o kahilingan. Paano naman ang mga walang internet access sa bahay? Huwag mangamba dahil merong mga nakalaang drop boxes ang ating paaralan na kung saan maaaring ihulog ng mga magulang at tagapangalaga ang kanilang requests. Sa mga nais namang mag-donate ng school supplies, maaaring ilagay ang mga ito sa tabi ng drop boxes. Maaari ring mag-donate ng mga kagamitan o cash donation kaakibat ang pagsusumite ng deed of donation form. Pangalawa, mahalaga ang ugnayan ng mga guro at ng mga magulang o tagapangalaga sa programang ito. Gamit ang video calls o chats ay ipahahayag ng mga guro ang adhikain ng programang ito sa mga magulang o tagapangalaga. Maaari ring gawin ang orientation na ito ng face-to-face kasabay ng schedule ng kuhanan ng mga module. Gaya ng nabanggit, hindi lamang mga bagay ang maaaring i-donate. Pwede ring mag-conduct ng tutorial session, study tips, at iba pang mga kagamitan sa pagkatuto gaya ng mga aklat o kaya ay gadgets. Ikatlo, ang requested needs ng ating mga magulang o tagapangalaga ay ililista ng ating NEST focal person. Ang mga coordinator naman ang mag-aayos ng mga ito. Ang advisors ng ating mga mag-aaral, guidance counselor, at iba pang mga guro ay ipaaalam sa ating mga magulang at tagapangalaga ang petsa at oras ng pamimigay ng requested needs na gaganapin sa paaralan. Sabi nga nila, it takes a village to raise a child. Kaya naman aktibo at iba yung pakikilahok ang inaasahan sa pagsasanib puwersa ng paaralan at barangay na siyang tutukoy sa pangangailangan ng bawat Fernandinong mag-aaral at kikilos upang matugunan ito sa tulong at suporta rin ng mga miyembro ng komunidad. Isang malawakang komunidad para sa isang produktibong educational community pantry ay tiyak na lilikha ng iba yung pagkilos upang maging mas magaan at madali ang pagkatuto ng bawat kabataang Fernandino. Kaya naman tandaan, magbigay ayon sa kakayahan, kumuha ayon sa pangangailangan.
Fernandino Teens TV.
You are still tuned in to Fernandino Teens TV Season 2. We are now done with our discussion on chemical reactions. Before we test your understanding of this lesson, let us have a quick recap of the different types of chemical reactions. The 6 types of chemical reactions are synthesis reaction, decomposition reaction, single displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, combustion reaction, and acid-base reaction. A synthesis reaction or direct combination reaction is a type of chemical reaction in which 2 or more simple substances combine to form a more complex product. In a decomposition reaction, a compound is broken into smaller chemical species. A single displacement reaction is a chemical reaction where one reactant is exchanged for one ion of a second reactant. A double displacement reaction is a type of reaction in which two reactants exchange ions to form two new compounds. A combustion reaction is a type of chemical reaction in which a compound and an oxidant are reacted to produce heat and a new product. An acid-base reaction is one in which a hydrogen ion is transferred from one chemical species to another. For our evaluation, I will be flashing chemical equations, and all you must do is to identify the type of chemical reaction that each possess. You may type in your answers in the comment section or write them on a clean sheet of paper. Are you ready? Okay, let's do this. Number 1. The chemical reaction 2H2O yields 2H2 plus O2 is A. Correct! It is a decomposition reaction. You can recognize a decomposition or analysis reaction by noticing a compound or molecule breaks into smaller chemical species. Number 2. The chemical reaction Fe plus S yields FeS is A. You are correct. In a synthesis reaction, two or more reactants combine to form a more complex molecule. Number 3. The chemical reaction AgNO3 plus NaCl yields AgCl plus NaNO3 is A. You are right. It is a double displacement reaction. In this type of chemical reaction, two reactants exchange ions to form two different compounds. Number 4. The chemical reaction Zn plus H2SO4 yields ZnSO4 plus H2 is A. Brilliant! It is a single displacement reaction where one element is displaced by another. Number 5. The chemical reaction CH4 plus 2O2 yields CO2 plus 2H2O is A. Amazing! It is a combustion reaction. Here, a fuel and an oxidizer react to produce water and carbon dioxide. Heat is also released by this reaction. Fantastic job, Fernandino teens! Before we end this episode, let us ponder on this quote by Debashish Muinda. Education is a chemical reaction between knowledge and the mind. The byproducts are new thoughts, new ideas, new perception, and new feelings. When we use our minds to gain knowledge, it gives us more learning opportunities. If we want to succeed and do good in our lives, we must invest time in learning new things. We must open our minds to new ideas and embrace the fact that learning is not just gained from books and other resources. We also learn from our experience. When we combine hard work, perseverance, and faith, we will prosper, we will yield success. Here are the references I used in this presentation. This has been Sir Danny Manuel reminding you Fernandino teens that it is always cool to be smart. Happy learning everyone and keep safe.
Bagong umaga, yakapin mo ang bagong pag-asa. Simulan mong abutin ang iyong pangarap na magbibigay dangal sa iyong bukas. Ang suliranin, hindi laging nandyan, dapat mong harapin. Kami iyong kasama sa bawat akin, magkaakbay nating lulutasin. mga